it is deja vu all over again in Florida, where the president and his team are bracing for recounts in key Senate and gubernatorial races in the Sunshine State.
With a recount all but certain, the issue of uncounted ballots heading to court. ABC's Victor Oquendo is in Lauderhill with the latest. Good morning, Victor.
Good morning, Eva and Dan. There are still votes to be counted here at Broward County election headquarters, but they won't say how many. The clock is ticking. All counties have by noon today to submit their vote totals. In the Senate race, both candidates have filed lawsuits. Senator Bill Nelson is asking for all votes cast by mail or with signature mismatches to be counted as valid votes. This battle is far from over. Fury in Florida, accusations of voter fraud, voter suppression, and abuse of power.
We're not going to let these liberal activists from all over the country come down here and say, oh, we're going to steal this election.
Republican Governor Rick Scott ran for Senate this year and thought he'd won. Not so fast. Officials in the Democratic strongholds of Palm Beach and Broward counties still counting votes. And this morning, fewer than 15,000 separate Scott from Democratic Senator Bill Nelson. That number apparently shrinking, and a recount seems imminent.
We believe when every legal ballot is counted, we'll win this election.
Governor Scott suing state election officials, a federal judge ruling those officials must disclose how many ballots are outstanding and yet to be counted.
In Broward, after election night, they came up with 78,000 more votes. We still don't have the information on it.
Here, painful memories of 2000, those hanging chads.
What's going on in Florida is a disgrace. If you look at Broward County, they have had a horrible history, and all of a sudden, they're finding votes out of nowhere.
Free and fair elections! Free and fair elections!
Protesters swarming the Broward County election headquarters Friday.
It appears to be that people are just searching for votes until they get the results that they want. That can't be. That's not a democracy.
They got votes that's never been counted. That's the problem.
And simply put, that's all you guys want.
That's all. Just count the votes. That's all we need. I'll go home, I'll lay down, I can sleep better.
It's not just the Senate race in question where the numbers stand now. The governor's race, even the Agriculture Commission race, all likely headed for recounts in Florida. If the margin of victory is less than half the percentage point, it triggers an automatic recount. Dan?
It's amazing. Victor, thank you very much. Let's bring in somebody for whom this whole story brings back incredibly fond memories. ABC News chief political analyst Matthew Dowd, who worked for George W. Bush in the year 2000. You have a mug, a commemorative mug.
Victory the day after, which we then discovered was way premature because it took 31 more days of recounts in Florida.
And here we are again.
PTSD, thank you.
So, you know, we've got a lot of people on the right saying that there's something fishy going on here. You keep finding these new ballots. What's going on? Do you smell something fishy?
There's been no evidence that there's been a problem in here, and I think there's a difference between fraud and incompetence. There's definitely incompetence on election night all over the country. But let me give you a stat. In 2016, after Election Day was over, the day after Election Day, there were still 10 million ballots to be counted around the country. My estimate as of today around the country, there are 4 or 5 million ballots to be counted. California, Arizona, where there's close races going on. So this is not unusual that ballots are counted, but Florida is so, as we've referenced, so specific that it brings back everybody's memories of what they had. They just count the ballots, see where it goes. I think that's ultimately what's going to happen.
All right, let's talk about the president in France this morning. He's not feeling the love for the French president, Emmanuel Macron, who gave a speech saying that here we are commemorating the end of World War I. We got into this conflict in the first place, according to Macron, because of nationalism. That's what led to World War I, he says. Do you think that comment is provoking some reflection for President Trump, who describes himself as a nationalist?
Well, I would hope so. I mean, nearly 20 million people died in that war, and I would hope he would reflect on that. There's a famous poem that in Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, and you'd think he'd take time to reflect on that. World War I, most people think World War I was caused by not only rampant nationalism around the world, xenophobia, fear of foreigners, and military buildups, all of which we seem to be involved in today. And so I hope the president, as he watches it and sees that, it causes him to reflect on it.
One more question on the president. We saw in Terry's piece that before the president left for France, he was asked about his acting attorney general, Matthew Whitaker, and he said, I don't know him. even though there's some evidence that he does know him. Does this distancing kind of spell perhaps the end for Mr. Whitaker?
Well, we've seen a lot of evidence that the president is not necessarily rooted in loyalty to people that work for him. I think that Matthew Whitaker has a number of problems. First was this a constitutional appointment of him in the first place, because he never got advice and consent by the Senate? And two, there's a ton of things, evidence that can he be objective, and can he run the Mueller probe, and can he oversee that after everything he said about it, negatively about it? So I think it's a real question whether or not he's going to survive the next 10 days or 2 weeks.
Matthew Dowd, thank you very much.
Great
Don't
to
break
be here.
that mug. It's historic.
No, I don't know. I hope we're not here 30 days from now having the same conversation.
I think a lot of people share that sentiment. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
When I was in Florida, I heard the word recount, and you're the first person I thought about, Matthew.
I don't know if that is a good thing.
Somebody give him a hug. All right, it's great to see you in person.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.